What's going on, guys? Brenden Schaeffer back here with another fantasy football mock draft. We're tackling a 12-team full PPR league from the 1.8 draft position today. Hit that subscribe button for tons of mock draft content between now and the start of the NFL season as we get you ready for your leagues. This league will have one quarterback, two running back, three wide receiver, one tight end, one flex setting for the roster. We'll go with 5 bench spots as well. Not going to bother with kicker and defense. Just as an aside, anytime I do a league, I am not drafting a kicker or a defense unless I'm drafting that league literally the day before the NFL season. Draft some position players if your format allows you to. I know Yahoo does, Sleeper does, ESPN typically doesn't, but for those formats that do, you might as well just stash some flyers. You never know if a late training camp injury could end up having you some good trade value before the season even begins. Let's go ahead and roll in here. I've talked a lot about it. This is going to be a year where wide receivers fill up the board early. So even at the 1.8 draft position, which is historically a spot to grab maybe the number 1 or number 2, maybe number 3 wide receiver on the board, that's not going to be possible this year as we see 5 wideouts among the first 7 picks. So basically I'm going to go running back, I think, to start here, which could end up bringing me a more robust RB build than I'm used to having. Breece Hall is a great pick. Jahmyr Gibbs is a great pick. I think for PPR, I actually might have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked above Breece Hall. Both should smash. I like both players. Amon-Ra's off the board. I'm going to take Breece Hall because there is a consideration to taking Laporta in the second round, and I don't want to have too many Lions on my team as Gibbs waits to go until the 2.1. I don't know if from the 1.8 I'm going to be ready to take Laporta that early. It's just going to depend as we get closer to late August and September with real NFL fantasy football drafts happening for your home leagues, what the ADP is going to be. I really like Sam Laporta, though, and I want to consider it. Otherwise, though, I probably would have taken Gibbs. Like, I think I'll have Gibbs ranked higher. But Breece Hall, like, if Aaron Rodgers is back and that offense is good, Breece Hall is a home run hitter. He's a smash play, so I don't have any problem with him. I would take Gibbs above Jonathan Taylor, though, me personally. But I also understand liking JT. PPR, though, Gibbs should be a total smash. Looking at round 2, running backs, I do think Saquon should be a really nice fit with the Philly Eagles. Almost called them the Phillies. I'm still in baseball mode. You could go Josh Allen. I just don't think the spot of the draft with wide receivers here is too particularly interesting to me. I'm going to see what it looks like to draft Sam Laporta. This might be a little bit of a reach, guys, and I do think there's better value to be had this year on the mid-range tight ends. Like, you could go down board to Kincaid, Pitts, and Kittle. Like, if Kittle is the tight end 7 or 8 in draft season, that's George Kittle used to be top 3, and it's like, I'm not going to pay up for George Kittle. He blocks too much. But if you're getting George Kittle in the 6th or 7th, it might be a consideration. But for this one, this is why we do mock drafts, right? We want to get an idea for what our team might look like if we go with a route that we're not really accustomed to, so that when you get into your real draft, you're prepared. You know what you want to do. Just one quarterback so far. Josh Allen goes off the board. The Pacheco, Jacobs range for RB, not attractive to me, so that's why I'm glad I have Breece Hall locked in. We do want to probably take a stab at wide receiver here soon, and it's just a case of I like to go for young upside players, and Mike Evans doesn't really fit that. Waddle's the 2 on his team. Pittman I really could see getting behind if Anthony Richardson breaks out. I like Malik Neighbors, but I think it's a little bit early to take Malik Neighbors. I'm going to pause to think about it for just a moment because in my real draft, I'll be not talking and thinking about all these angles to try and do for a video. I'll be focusing more on the players that are available to me on the board. And I just don't really want to go quarterback just yet. I'm going to wait on that. No running backs in this range that really appeal to me. I think this is kind of the beginning of the dead zone for me. I like James Cook, but a lot of these guys are either like a little older like Kamara or Mixon. Mixon on a new team could be really strong, but we don't know. Aaron Jones, this could be kind of like the new dead zone. Rashad White, I don't think is talented at football. I know he was amazing last year in PPR formats, so I'm probably wrong for ignoring him and my eyes glazing over him at this point in the draft range, but it's kind of where I am. I like Kenneth Walker. He's another home run hitter. He'd be fun to pair with Breece Hall, but I think you could even get him a little bit later. Let's go ahead and lock ourselves into one of these wide receivers. And I think we're going to take the plunge on Michael Pittman. If we can get a full season from Anthony Richardson. Oh, my goodness. Listen to that. Sleeper was cheering for me. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they were cheering for the guy that took Mahomes. So we kind of lost our bet there that Malik Neighbors would drop back to us. little bit of a bummer, but now this is the area where I just tend to like a lot more of these wide receivers. I like Tank Dell because of the Texans guys, he's the cheapest, and I think he's got just as good of a chance to be their most valuable receiver as Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs does. Zay Flowers, I'm pretty interested in. Again, young player, upside. Could he take a step forward is always what I'm looking for at this area of the draft, and really every area of the draft. DK Metcalf is interesting this year because we don't really know what the offense is going to be in Seattle. They're not the Pete Carroll offense anymore that wants to run the ball. And I've been seeing rumors, reports from training camp that here it is, DK Metcalf has another level. They're going to move him around the field and try to make him a matchup problem. I'm enticed by the idea of DK and a new coaching scheme absolutely going off. I think I'd like him even more as my wide receiver 3, but in a PPR format here, where with the other receivers there, Tyler Lockett and JSN, we're not really sure who's going to have the upper hand. Love me some Tyler Lockett, but he's getting up there in age a little bit, and they'll continue to mix in Smith and Jigba more. I think that's very attractive. We like DK Metcalf there in the 4th. Looking at what else has happened since our last pick, C.J. Stroud and Lamar Jackson off the board. That's 5 quarterbacks. This is interesting, man. If we want to stack Anthony Richardson with Michael Pittman, we could do that right here. I'm not one to force stacks, but when they fall to me, I'm not going to say no to it because it is just from like a pure fun standpoint and an entertainment value when you're in your home leagues. Why wouldn't you want to stack? Because think about this. You're watching Sunday Ticket. The Colts are in the red zone. Anthony Richardson scampers. If he scores, great. If he doesn't, maybe he throws it to Pittman on the next play. You might get double the fantasy value for that. I think that's fun, and I think I am probably going to take the plunge here. It's usually risky to go early QB and early tight end. But I like the value at the bottom of the board this year when it comes to running backs and the wide receiver position. And since I feel very good about where I am right now at tight end, I'm like, you know what? I can take this plunge. I can knock quarterback out of the way and really take some of the flyers that I like at the later stages of this draft. Because there's a lot of names I like. And now I can just focus on running back and wide receiver the rest of the way. We're not quite to the guys that I like in a hero RB format, which is kind of what we're doing right now. We've only taken one running back, our guy Breece Hall, through the first 5 rounds. But looking down the board a little bit, like you get into the Eckler, especially in PPR, like the Eckler, the Warren. If you're not a believer in the smoke about Javonte Williams' roster spot being up for grabs, he could still be kind of interesting. If you like the health to turn around for Jonathan Brooks, he could be an upside play. Trey Benson, Tyjae Spears, like a lot of pass catchers late in the game. Chase Brown could be the one for the Bengals. So I like where we're sitting right there. We're going to have to make a pick in the next 5 seconds. It's going to be a receiver. We're going to plunge into the rookie Rome Odunze. I know I just kind of talked about the Texans and how I don't like that it's kind of hard to tell which of the 3 Texans wide receivers is going to be the guy. You're dealing with something similar in Chicago. However, I'll take the rookie who is right now going in drafts as the cheapest of the 3, if I'm not mistaken. We know that DJ Moore was taken. Is Keenan Allen gone? As I'm doing this video, I just haven't been able to find Keenan Allen. Let's make sure he's been drafted. Yeah, he's off the board. So we're good with Rome Odunze as our wide receiver 3. I think we've got a very interesting mix of like guys like Pittman and DK. They're not breakout candidates. We already know that they're pretty good receivers, but I don't worry about them like on the age curve right now. Pittman's 26. I think DK is 26 as well. Yep. So this is right in the range I want to be. Do we want to go running back? Again, this makes it so much easier to draft. I have tight end. I have quarterback. I didn't talk much about the Richardson pick, but I think he's going to score rushing touchdowns. I think he's going to get you rushing yards. I love the floor, and I love the upside because the Colts have added to that offense. Just going to take a moment here to pause so that I can talk a little bit more about this pick I'm about to make. My point was with running backs, I'm still not to a range that I'm just desperate to lock in one of these guys. I think a lot of people in this range are going to be similar in round 7, 8, 9. I'll pick up a couple late flyers, and they'll compete to be my RB2, and I'm okay with that. Really what I look for from an RB2 in draft season is somebody who can get me 8 to 10 PPR points per week because I'll be robust at these other positions, and then I'm going to have a lot of wide receivers, probably some rookies on my bench, so that when I get into week 2, week 3, week 4, any of those guys that emerge, I can package with my current RB2 that's getting me 9 PPR points, and I can upgrade a wide receiver or upgrade a running back by doing that. That's sort of the way that I view sort of trading into a more quality RB2. And if I didn't go robust with quarterback or tight end, I would be doing the same thing with those positions. I'd be loading up at RB and wide receiver to the extent that I've got guys on my bench that are going to be better than some of my league mates' starters. And I could then make trades 2-for-1s to be able to put myself into a better position. Especially, I find it easy to do when I draft a bunch of receivers because they tend to not get hurt as often as running back. And look, when you're starting 3 wide receivers in a flex in a PPR setting, I want 4 wide receivers in my lineup. That is the way that mentally I'm able to break it down. It doesn't mean go 0 RB. You can draft an RB early if you like a guy that can kind of carry the load. It's almost ideal to do so in more of a hero RB format. And I think Breece Hall could be the type of guy, as could Jahmyr Gibbs, and Bijan could do it as well, obviously McCaffrey. Those are the guys that could really carry a hero RB workload for you. And you're going to find that your roster at the other positions is really solid if you go through with that. I took a minute. I took Ladd McConkey. I want to make sure I got that pick in. I'm buying the hype on Ladd McConkey for sure. I would like him as my first bench wide receiver if I could afford it, but I think he's going to be the go-to guy for Justin Herbert. And if he's not, he's only my flex, so it's not as though I've taken a huge risk. Look at the other guys I could take. I could take Calvin Ridley. It doesn't help me, though, mentally that people have seen him in the NFL and they've not seen McConkey. Ridley's been very good at times, but he's also had moments where he's disappeared. And granted, he's in a new system, but I don't know if it's a great system. We don't know what the Titans are going to be this year. They've built around Will Levis, but is it going to work? We don't know. Hollywood Brown, yeah, he's got Mahomes, but he's been very inconsistent and not always healthy through his career. So I'm always going to, if I'm breaking a tie, it's going to be with a rookie like Ladd McConkey, who is getting some good reviews so far in camp. All right, I don't even need to look at quarterback. I don't even need to look at tight end. I need to probably start to figure out running back here soon. But a moment ago, I mentioned that my preference would be Ladd McConkey to potentially be my first wide receiver off the bench. And there's a world in which I could draft a more established receiver and start that guy week 1 in my flex, like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Deontay Johnson. And maybe I feel pretty good about it if McConkey goes off early. I know he's trusted in my flex week 2. Or I could just continue to go with the upside plays that are not guaranteed to produce. You got rookie Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman. Somebody's going to have to catch the ball from Josh Allen in Buffalo, so that's a consideration for me. I like JSN, but I already have DK Metcalf as teammate, so I probably won't go there. Christian Watson could be the one for the Packers if healthy. There's no doubt about that. Jordan Love, big contract. So there are receivers in this range that if you squint, you could see it for them. And I'm talking about drafting it to my bench right now. And because I believe that the running back I get in round 8 at the 5th pick is going to be probably similar in terms of how much I like them to the running back I can get here at 9.8, because there's guys down here that I like just as well as I might like a Nick Chubb or a Brooks or a Javonte or a Zach Moss. So I'm going to probably go wide receiver a couple more times, at least once more here, until I've filled out my bench. And as I look at this group of names, Watson has a ton of upside, but it's possible that the other wide receivers like Jaden Reed and Green Bay have surpassed him, and if he can't stay healthy, then it might just be over for Christian Watson, but could work out. Jameson Williams is another guy kind of in that tier. Can he take a step forward? I'm still in on JMO for one more year, but I might be able to get him in the 9th round and still draft a guy who can get me 8 or 9 PPR points at RB2, and then my bench has 2 wide receivers that if they do pop, trade value. I trade my Trey Benson and my Keon Coleman or my Christian Watson who pops early, especially if it's a Christian Watson, because I don't trust him to stay healthy. So if he goes off week 1 and 2, I trade Christian Watson and Trey Benson for somebody's running back that, drafted up here and they need a wide receiver. I get him for Kyron Williams or Saquon or, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Derrick Henry, Achane. Would it be crazy to anybody if, for whatever reason, Achane just had a bad week on the same week that Christian Watson went nuclear? And I'm going, yeah, Trey Benson's gotten 10 PPR points. He outscored Achane this week for whatever reason. It's not going to stay that way. But would my league mate maybe consider a trade of 10-point Benson for 8-point Achane if I'm throwing him 28-point Christian Watson, who just went 5 for 122 and 2? Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you can. I'm not saying every league. This is more for home leagues, but a lot of y'all play in home leagues, right? And you got that guy in your league that's not that bright. You can do these types of trades. That's what we're going to be helping you with on this channel all year long. So hit that subscribe button. That being said, I am going to take an upside plunge. I'm not taking JSN because of my DK share. It's either Keon Coleman, Christian Watson, or JMO for me. And because I might try to get JMO on the wraparound, let's go with another rookie. Let's take Keon Coleman and just see. Christian Watson might be a better pick. I don't tend to draft the older guys. Deontay Johnson's on a new team, so that's why I didn't look as closely at him. If not for all the negative smoke around Javonte, I think I would be taking him in this range. I just don't know if I'm going to have the stones to do it if he could legitimately get cut. The good news is we're going to know by the time your home league drafts, so you don't have to worry about that quite as much. I was right. J-Mo dropped to me, and I'm just going to take him without thinking about it. I love having, J-Mo, Ladd, Keon Coleman. I need one of them to be a good flex, and my lineup is everything I could want it to be. Okay, running backs are falling off the board. Let's take a look. Gus Edwards could be the one for the Chargers, man. He did have an offseason surgery. He'll be eased back into camp. But, like, in the 10th round, Jim Harbaugh's RB1, I could do a lot worse. But you know what? If I don't take Chase Brown here, he's not going to be there for me, I don't think. Let's see. Gus Edwards will surely be gone. I like Blake Corum, but he's not going to be somebody I can plug in at RB2. I like Blake Corum more as an RB3 because I think he could pop if Kyron has an injury, but if he doesn't, he's not startable. Chase Brown, I think, could be startable right away. I'm taking him. I am out on Zach Moss and on Chase Brown. That's just the personal bet that I'm making because I don't think Zach Moss is that good at football, and I think Chase Brown has the juice, and we haven't seen his best yet at the NFL level. So I'm fine with it. Chase Brown, RB2, come on in, brother. We'll set that up right quick. And now we're going to go another running back, I think, because, look, we've got our wide receiver 5 is Keon Coleman. Wide receiver 6 is J-Mo. We've got a few bench spots to play with. We're covered at every position already. We like our stack of A-Rich and Michael Pittman. Breece Hall is our robust RB1. DK Metcalf could be used as a weapon in a new scheme. Rome Odunze, a rookie with a rookie QB that they'll probably come into the league together and have some juice together. I'm kind of getting into Xavier Legette, honestly. The camp hype, I'm buying a little bit. I wasn't looking his way before. I am a little bit now. But do I need a wide receiver 7 before an RB3? I don't. So let's take a running back here, and if Legette's still there, we'll talk about it. Charbonnet, I have one Seattle player already, but Charbonnet has some upside. I think Jalen Wright has more upside because if there's an injury to Achane or Mostert, and it's not like Mostert's never gotten hurt before, I think Jalen Wright out of Tennessee ends up stepping in just like Achane did last year. He's got that type of build and that type of speed. Mike McDaniel will know what to do with Jalen Wright, and because I'm not starting him, I like stashing him on the bench, and we'll wait and see. Kendre Miller, I wanted to believe in this year, but I think their coaching staff is kind of fed up with him and his injuries. So I'm not going to grab him here necessarily. Let's take a look at the receiver spot. Legette did go a couple picks before us, so that's, those things happen. But again, he would have been our 7th wide receiver. We're not really sweating it. Just check to make sure there's no crazy tight end name that dropped or crazy quarterback that I would want as a QB2. Anthony Richardson is obviously a guy who could get injured, so you think about those things. But like Stafford, Rodgers, Mayfield, even Watson has a chance. Like there is enough good quarterbacks that are probably going to be on waivers this year. When like Kirk Cousins and Trevor Lawrence are QB 17 in draft season, like there's a lot going on here that you're going to be able to find some quarterbacks more likely than not, unless the injuries pile up like they did last year for QBs. We probably do need a running back, though. So let's talk about the guys in this area. Not a lot in terms of certainty anymore, right? Just upside plays for different guys. J.K. Dobbins is kind of interesting. Rico Dowdle would be interesting. I don't know what the Dallas Cowboys are doing at running back because there's smoke. He might not even make the 53, but Zeke Elliott ain't it. So I don't really know what they're doing there. Maybe my guy Deuce Vaughn will get a look, but that was kind of a failed rookie campaign. Marshawn Lloyd, he's got some juice, but again, injury. There's some other guys kind of vying for time behind Josh Jacobs there in Green Bay, so I'm not crazy about him either. If you wanted to play the Jaleel McLaughlin game, if you're betting against Javonte, you could do that. I don't know. I'm really not enthused by this round pick. And then at wide receiver, there's nobody I'm crazy for. You're just basically taking your pick on rookies that you think could rise. Roman Wilson I liked until he got carted off today in practice. There's just not a lot here in this range. So in a real draft, I'll scroll way down, and by the end of August, there'll be somebody that I'm obsessed with that has no business being drafted. But like a Puka Nacua last year, I'll call my shot, and if I'm wrong, I'll drop him week 1. If I'm right, maybe you have the next Puka Nacua, so you could do a lot worse than that. I've talked about it for long enough. I really think this guy ends up being, whoever I draft here is potentially a waiver fodder. I don't feel strongly about this at all, but we'll take J.K. Dobbins just to end the video. Legette would have been sweet in this spot. Let me know in the comments, who's the guy I should be scrolling down for right now that I just got impatient and I didn't, so I drafted Dobbins. Because surely there's somebody. Ricky Pearsall, what if the Niners trade Ayuk? Like, they probably won't, but what if they did? There's Quentin Johnston smoke. I don't feel strongly about anybody in this range that I'm going to pick. Jermaine Burton, what's his camp smoke, Ben? Does he have any? Nope, nothing yet posted by Sleeper. Like, he could, T. Higgins, not reliable. I like Jermaine Burton a lot more for Dynasty if T. Higgins gets dumped after the season, goes in free agency. Yeah, it's kind of dealer's choice on this. I really don't have a strong preference. So, you know what? We're going to take Pearsall just for the hay. And that'll be it. But, man, I like the way that this thing wrapped up until the last two picks that I had no idea where to go. Richardson to Pittman, I'm enjoying that possibility. Breece Hall, good RB1, no doubt. And just think about the value. I got the third best RB, and historically people want to claim her for those workhorse RBs, rather than drafting the sixth best wide receiver, which, look, Puka might be wide receiver 1. He was in that range last year, wasn't he? So maybe just people have it wrong on their draft boards, but typically over the course of time, ADP at the top is going to have some pretty decent opinions. Why wouldn't I want the third best running back over the seventh best receiver? And then I can figure out everything else later. We know that Laporta is a stud. I still like that Detroit offense, so I'd love to take a piece. I'm taking a Lion in the first 3 rounds. If it's Amon-Ra, if it's Gibbs, if it's Laporta, I'd like to have one. If not, I'm going J-Mo late, which I still did here. I went J-Mo late, and he's on my bench. Love having the setup I do at receiver because I look at it. Pittman, DK, Rome, good starting 3. Ladd, Keon, Jameson. I just need one of those guys to be a good flex. It's pretty good. And Chase Brown is going to get 8 to 10 PPR points, maybe more. He'll catch passes. He'll do what I need for PPR. And then when he has a great week, I'll trade him, and then I'll trade, whatever. I'll trade DK with Chase Brown for, I don't know. Probably not DK. I want to keep him. It would look more like Jameson Williams pops, and people are like, he's here, he's arrived, and I trade him with a Chase Brown that's plugging along at 10 points a week, and I get a legit RB2, who's actually more like an RB1. But because I have Breece Hall, I'm absolutely in a great spot to be able to do something like that from a team who say they like Devon Achane for sure, but they didn't draft a second running back. Well, it doesn't really work for them. I'm looking at the teams who early drafted their 2. Like, this is a great example. Mixon and Henry. Let's say Mixon just has no juice anymore, or he gets hurt, or Henry gets hurt, and the other guy's popping off. But his RB, he's waiting down here for Swift, and this is clearly a fantasy player who cares about having good RB play. So he's like, oh, man, my RBs are injured. I got to do something. He might trade away for depth, and at wide receiver, he's got some good guys, but Pickens is, he's not always a guarantee. I don't love Thomas among the rookies. This guy could end up needing a receiver where he would trade me Henry for Chase Brown and, if not DK, like, Keon Coleman, if Keon Coleman goes off. I know what I'm saying sounds crazy, but I've done it each and every year, and I'll try to help you do it this year in your fantasy leagues if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you next time on the Brenden Schaeffer Fantasy Football Channel. Peace.